Okay, this week's Fallout Friday of one of the models I'm painting up as part of my WGNR hobby pledge. Going all the way back to the early waves, we're painting up everyone's favorite Corsair X6-88. Should be a fairly simple model to paint. Obviously he's wearing a black trench coat. Most of what we're going to be doing is black. We're going to do contrast, but then we're going to go ahead and do some dry brushing and some extra techniques at the end to break it up a bit, so it's not quite as boring. But to start with, we'll be doing his face, and for that we're going to be using Dark Oath Flesh. I tend to use this for any darker skinned models I am working with, and we'll just see how one coat goes. We're not thinning it or anything, and we will work from there. So while the face is drying, before I go in and do the hair, which will be in black as well, we're going to put a couple bits of color, mostly on the gun here. So we're going to start with Blood Angel's red. We're going to put that on the tip of the gun. And then we also have Iyanden yellow for the power cell. Okay, so got the tip of the gun, like I said, and the battery in there. I also remembered that the pull ring on the Synth Grenade is red, so I went ahead and hit that real quick. So let's go ahead now, and we're going to hit the hair. Now, again, my black is fairly thick, so we're going to usually water that down a bit, but for the hair, since I want it to be a very dark black in comparison even to what we're going to do with the coat, I'm not going to thin it out at all. Okay, so I've aligned his hairline a bit better, and I also went ahead and did the stock of the gun, which is black, and I wanted to use the deeper black that we're working with right now again, so that when I go back in and do that coat, which we're about to, it'll align nicely. Now, before we do the coat though, we're going to go ahead and do the pouches on his belt, so we have a bit of a separation color in there. And for that, we're going to go ahead and use our Snakebite leather, and we're just going to thin it down first. So again, we're just doing the belt and his pouch here. Alright, now time to do the primary, which is going to be pretty much the entire body. And we're going to mix down our black here, just so it gives a smoother appearance. In fact, I think I'm going to want to put it down even more. Just to be sure. Alright, let's start at the back then, and we'll work our way forward. So, as we can see, we got our black down on there. It's already pooling nicely. So that's looking good. So while that's drying, because there's a lot to dry, we're going to go ahead and work on the base some. So we're looking at it, and I can see wood plank, some actual bricks. Oh, just noticed a teeny tiny Nuka-Cola bottle on there too. So we're going to go ahead and put our towelite ochre down on the dirt sections in this piled up mound and go around all of that while the body of the miniature actually dries. Alright, so for some of these extra pieces on the base, for the wood, I've been using a grunt of fur contrast because it shows off the textures. So we're just going to toss that on real quick. Now for the bricks, we're going to go ahead and use this heavy red. I quite like it for brick color because it's that kind of deep red. It's pretty thick, so it's easy to go on. Alright, so we got most of the base done. I've left the bottles for now. I just had to do a bit of touch up on them to get the yellow off. And we will hit them up again with some contrast white before we do our wash. But for now, they're looking good. Next up, we're going to go ahead and work on the sunglasses real quick. So I'm using Army Painter Gunmetal to begin with. And this is just to get the framework done, not the lenses itself. Normally I would water this down because as you can see it really doesn't run well at all, but because we're working on the face I don't want it going everywhere. Alright, so after doing the frames, I went ahead and dabbed some shining silver into the lenses just to give them that little bit of difference in the shade. You may not even notice it when you look at it, but I like to think it draws a little bit of brightness to it. So next up, we're going to go ahead and work on the gun for the rest of it. And we're going to apply some Apothecary white. And the only part we're not going to apply this to is the grip, which we will be doing in a Basilicanum gray to give it a slightly different color. Okay, so you could stop here other than applying a wash to the base to pick that out, and you'd be pretty well done. So what we're going to do is let this fully dry, and then we're going to come back and kind of pick out some details, do a bit of dry brush work, and kind of bring it up that next step. Okay, so as we can see, he's dried pretty nicely. Base is pretty much done. So we're ready to proceed with some more detail bits. So to start off, I'm going to be taking my silver here and picking out just the metallic pieces like his belt buckle and this kind of couple points on his shoulder, stuff like that. Again, I'm not thinning this because I want it to not run all over the place. So as we see, I've picked out that belt buckle nicely, a couple points on the shoulder pads, and then I also picked out a bunch of caps that are on the base. And I'm actually going to go back after the fact and also hit them with a bit of red, just to give the appearance of a Nuka cap. Next though, I'm going to do a bit of weathering, and what we're actually going to do is not necessarily stress the duster or do anything like that. I mean, this is a synth from the Institute. They should be fairly clean, lined, that sort of thing. However, they are walking around, so we want to pick up some dirt on like the hem and on the boots a bit. So for that, we're just going to take our towel light ochre. I'm going to do some dry brush work, kind of focusing on the bottom of the duster and just kind of like the front of the boots, that sort of thing, where dirt and whatnot would build up naturally. So we're going to take our dry brush here and we're just going to build up the paint onto the brush, wipe most of it off, and then start working on it. So as we can see, we got that nice little bit of dirt built up on the lower section there. Just enough to give the appearance that he's been walking around a bit and just picked up some dust. So at this point, I'm going to call it done. In fact, I'm not even going to go back on those caps, I think. I like kind of having the little sparkle of metal on there, so we'll leave them as is, but we're gonna ring the base, seal it, and go from there. Okay, we are back with our coarser companion here. You can see he's all sealed and ready to go. Now, we could just leave him as is. He's got a very busy base going on. And I did go back and hit some of the bottle caps with a bit of red, just to have a differentiation, but there's still several that are just plain metal. Due to how busy it is, it's very hard to actually fit a tuft on this. However, what we're going to do is go ahead and use a small one and just put it in one of the areas that don't have a lot of detail. There we go. Just get a bit of... What is that? Dripping glue everywhere. And dropping tufts everywhere. So we're going to kind of go for right here. And so he is all finished now. So for the WGNR Hobby Playage, I still have several more of these to go. I have 2 more that are uncloaked, and then a bunch of the cloaked ones. So next week I'm going to show you some interesting things to do with the cloaked models. But for now, we're going to call this one done, and we will see you all next time.